UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's up, Los Angeles? It's Ryan Dyrud, host of Believe in LA Football, and today's episode is brought to you by betonline.ag. We're over the halfway point of the NFL season, and if you're still not betting on games, you're missing out on big winnings. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any place online. And there's always the online casino if for some reason football isn't your thing. So head to betonline.ag today and take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. Again, that's betonline.ag and sign up today. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Los Angeles. Welcome back to the Believe in LA Football Podcast here on the Believe Podcast Network, always on LAFBnetwork.com, your destination for Los Angeles football. Show is always brought to you by Golden Road Brewery, 5 locations across the Southern California area, or head to LAFBnetwork.com. Pick yourself up a delicious Who's House Golden Ale or a Bolt Up as well. We can go right there. Go to LAFBnetwork.com, LAFB Locker Room. Purchase it there. Golden Road Brewery. My man, Frostee Rucker, joins me as always. What's going on, man?
Ryan, what's up, man? I'm good. Some good football going on this weekend, man. I tell you that. All 4 of our teams had hell of a games, and some better than others.
Yeah. You know, we're still waiting for that clean sweep, but 3-1. We went 3-1. We'll take that. Chargers couldn't finish off the Dolphins to bring us to a 4-0. We'll get it maybe one time this year, but overall I thought it was pretty good.
Sounds familiar, man.
Yeah, right? We've been saying it's like the same song and dance every single week. I had a question for you before we get rolling, and this is super random. How early is too early to start watching Christmas movies?
Oh, I mean, I can watch Elf anytime, so I'm not the one to ask. And my name's Frostee, so.
Yeah, because I'm huge. You'll learn about me. I'm a huge Christmas guy. So we're like 20 movies in already. We're not even to Thanksgiving yet. So that asks, what's your favorite Christmas movie of all time? Is it Elf?
I would say Elf, or you got to go, that's a good one.
So my
Home Alone. Elf or Home Alone.
Okay, I like that. So my top 2 are Elf and have you ever seen The Holiday?
No.
Jack Black and Jude Law and Cameron Diaz, Kate Winslet.
You need to watch tonight.
I mean, it's a real rom-com. It's a rom, but I love it. It's great. Check it out, The Holiday.
I will. We'll do.
Yeah. So, all right, just had to get that off my chest because I'm really deep into Christmas movies already, and it's 85 degrees outside right now. Is what it is. All right, Frostee, let's start with UCLA. Huge bounce back for them this week.
Our guy.
Looked great.
We're going to be talking about him every week.
Go for it. Let's start it off. Talk about DTR.
Well, I mean, he played a heck of a game, despite the interception at the beginning of the game, right, when he got the ball.
Yep.
No one wants to throw those early interceptions or interceptions at that. But he bounced back, and I think he was accounted for 4 touchdowns, 3 passing, 1 rushing. And on top of that, DTR moved up 10th all time. And there's been a lot of good quarterbacks at UCLA, Troy Aikman, Cade McNown. Those are a few names that I do.
Corey Paz.
Shout out to Corey for always keeping it 100% real.
Right.
But he moved up 10th all time in a career passing yards with 4,511 yards. So he had a great day. And again, he's moving up those ladders, and you know, he's playing some football. So that's good for him.
Yeah, no, that's great. Congrats. Hats off to him. And I thought, overall he played very well this game. Still had some mental errors a little bit here and there. Obviously you don't want to start with a pick like you said, but bounce back. I loved what Chip Kelly did with the offense. And I think what makes DTR, or what can make DTR so good, is how much of a dual threat he can be with his legs. I mean, the guy's explosive running the football, and they did that more again this game. He had 12 carries this game. So they're really utilizing him in the running game instead of just – I feel like in a lot of game plans, his rushing yards come from purely just scrambling, escaping pressure, whereas these were designed run plays, run pass options, stuff for him to actually get involved, which is, I think, what makes him so dynamic and what makes him so hard to game plan for, because you don't know exactly what you're going to get with him. And they did a great job after that first possession of doing that in this one.
Right. And then he becomes more of a complete quarterback, and especially in this day and age, being able to use his legs and their design runs. So that's always a plus. Hats off, like you said, to Chip Kelly for utilize his playmaker. If he's going to put him in there, give the kid something to play for. Give him a chance,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's why they brought him in, was partially because of what he does with his legs. So shout out to Dimitri Felton. Sometimes I think these coaches listen to this show, because what we talked about last week, why did Dimitri Felton not get the ball more times? He's dynamic with it every time. 25 carries in this game for Frostee, over 100 yards, and had a receiving touchdown not a receiving, but had 3 receptions as well. So the good things happen when this kid has the ball, and they did that this week.
Yeah, he's definitely a special talent, and their ears are ringing, and I'm sure it's coming from the AD that they got upstairs telling them, like, hey, hold on, this guy right here can play some football. Get him the ball, and he just lights it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I was excited to see how the offense – how do I say this? Because they played well against Colorado. They put up 42 points, but they just had a lot of mental errors and mistakes. And I'm excited to see after that first 2 drives or so, turn things around, stay as a collective unit. Now let's shift real quick to the defense, Frostee, your side of the ball. UCLA, we've said it a lot. I said it a lot before you came on here. Defense was kind of their worst part of their play, I guess, if you will. Poor tackling, giving up lots of points, big chunk plays, not getting off the field on third down. They hold Cal to under 200 yards of total offense, hold them to only 10 points. Had a great performance from a lot of players. Defense overall looked outstanding for UCLA.
Yeah, they stood up, and it's either UCLA is a better team than we're giving them credit for, or Cal is really bad. And, thank God we don't have to cover Cal. So, yeah, like you said, a couple guys played some good ball. Redshirt junior, Caleb Johnson, first career interception in the second quarter. He also had a 1.5 sacks and 2.5 for loss. So that was a great day for him. And the big fella, Big Osa, he made his 22nd career start this week, and he registered his first sack in the second quarter. And then he added a 0.5 sack in the third. So that brings him to 9 in his career, but a heck of a game for a defensive lineman to be very active in the backfield, causing chaos. And, if the defense steps up and they play some ball and they can play a full 4 quarters of football, this makes this interesting as the season keeps going. They do have Oregon coming up this week. Oregon scores a lot of points. Defense is going to have to step up. But, again, if DTR has these organized plays that are just for him, he's running the ball, he's passing the ball, keeping the defense off balance, this makes it a little bit more interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. And, just a good performance over that defense. I want to have, hopefully, one day Osa on the show so he can pronounce his last name for us, because I don't even want to attempt that. I don't trust the announcers in the broadcast. They say it right, so I'd rather him just come on.
Not butchering.
For us. Yeah, exactly. I'm not butchering that for him. But yeah, I mean, this is a game that Cal doesn't have a good offense, right? They didn't even last year have a good offense. Chase Garbers is a decent quarterback, but he's not really a dual threat. He has a younger brother who I think committed to Washington, who's going to be probably a little better than his career so far. But, Chase can play. He's a decent quarterback, and UCLA really just shut him down, was in his face all day, applying pressure, kept him, almost under 100 yards. He had 122 total yards passing, almost a 50% completion percentage. So just a really good job. And like you said, though, this is Cal. This is a lesser offense. They go up against a very good Oregon unit, which we'll preview later in the week, who had a big win against Washington State. But if they learned anything from this game, it's that they can do things well. Now they just have to apply that when they play better competition, and hopefully we'll see that. So great all-around win. It was a fun football game to watch, which I feel like we haven't said about a UCLA game in some time. I know they had some good ones last year, but kind of ended trending down, started off trending down, and then they bounced back to say, okay, USC is still the team to beat in Southern California, in Los Angeles, but maybe this UCLA team can actually compete and they can put a good product on the field, which is what we saw on a Sunday, which is kind of fun to watch.
On a Sunday morning. It was bright and early on a Sunday morning before the NFL football kicked off, and it was good to see those guys get a win, high energy in the Rose Bowl. So hopefully that energy carries over to this next week, and if they knock off Oregon, it makes it really interesting knowing that USC should route the next couple teams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'll be a fun game to see how they compete. And I remember last thing I'll say is UCLA strung together some wins, and they had the option, if they won out, to win the Pac-12 South, and it started off with Utah. So it was like, all right, here's the UCLA. We're starting to see them good. And then they just got boat raced by Utah, and then they kind of fell down. So we'll see if they can not do that against Oregon this next week.
It's all on them and Chip Kelly's leadership. So hopefully they can get it done because it feels good to root for two teams that win each week.
Yeah. All right. Frosty said it. I like to hear that. UCLA wins, moves to 1-1 in the season. Let's talk about USC, your team. So far through 2 weeks, it's been I don't want to say hard to watch in a sense that it's just you're on the edge of your seat, you're biting nail. I think you posted something. It's always drinking. What's going on? How do you feel about the game?
Well, I feel like the rest of the fans and alumni out there that is, we just don't know what this team – I feel like the rest of the fans, alumni out there, we just don't know what we're going to get from this team. Everyone has high hopes, but then, you go into the season thinking the offense is going to just light it up week in, week out. Slovis is going to be on the Heisman campaign, and we just don't know the true identity of that offense yet.
Mm-hmm.
The defense battles – I'm still obviously alumni. I'm a fan, but I don't know sometimes,
Yeah, I think I texted you during the game that is like, man, there's certain things that are hard to watch. Like one in particular that was driving me crazy. And again, we don't want to be overly critical because it's a tough game to play, but you can point things out. One thing I noticed, and I want to hear your thought on it, it seemed like this team through 2 games is struggling mightily on 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s. And they keep running this same – they only play in the shotgun. The broadcast said it all the time, but we knew that. They did that last year too, so it's nothing new. But they keep running these running back dive plays over the guard, left or right, and that's literally all they were doing on 3rd and 1 and 4th down every single time, and they were getting stopped 3-4 yards in the backfield. That to me was the frustrating thing where I'm like, okay, play calling, let's switch it up, let's do something different.
It's wild, Ryan, because they get the same play and they line up on goal line, and Marquise scores.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really understand the rhyme or reason behind it. We're used to a traditional USC, go I-backs with a fullback. That's just not this team. Obviously, it's not the offense that they run. You would love to see a quarterback sneak. But the thing that I do like is that they do have the courage to go for it on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 all the time. That keeps the defense on their heels. They don't know if they should send a punt block, punt return team out. They don't know what they're getting. So, I like it. It's aggressive, and that's what I want from this team. I want them to steal all possessions that they can. Sometimes you wish they would punt, but, going for it builds the confidence of a young offensive line, and I like it.
Yeah. Let's talk quickly about Keaton Slovis. Another thing that I noticed, and a lot of people did, I got text from a bunch of different people, is his arm just didn't seem right. I don't know if he was just throwing ducks left and right. Not saying why it is, but what did you make of that? Because that was just usually he's got good zip, and everything was just a duck coming out.
Well, for me, I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I kept calling it Duck Dynasty all through the game, and just wondering what's going on with him. But I guess you can have off days. Listen to coach.
I go back, like I said, Ryan, yesterday. Just I thought the ball was a little bit slick for him, which allowed some mechanics. I don't know if you've ever had that ball that's been slick to you. It's not a very confident thing when it's you're afraid it's going to come out of your hand the wrong way, and it will change you from time to time. It was a dry, windy day, and it created some issues for us, and I'll make sure that we've got exactly what he needs to be ready. But, he's such a consistent kid and such a pure motion that I don't see it being an issue moving forward. And if that's our worst day to go 70% and throw for another 300 plus yards without an interception and to do what he did down the stretch, a lot of people would like that. So if that's our off day, God bless us. We'll be very happy down the stretch.
See, he explains it. People have bad days, and I think they're going to get a grip on it. I think it's just going to be a lot of stuff they need to practice and, get him comfortable. And I think the rhythm of the game hasn't been coming naturally for this offense, and that may be a part of it. He may,
Yeah, and this, we've said it before, this offense is extremely predicated on getting in a rhythm, right? And Keaton Slovis even more so just needs to get in a rhythm. He's a rhythm passer. That's kind of what makes him great. But if he's off of the rhythm, they have to find ways to get him in a rhythm, and they just couldn't do that. There was even a time on the broadcast where Joel Klatt said this offense just looks downright bad. Like, just it's hard to watch because they just would go out, run 3 plays, and then punt or whatnot. They couldn't get going. And so I think that'll help when they can get things going early for them, and then we'll start seeing hopefully the passes come better. And I don't know, it was a weird game, but the big thing is Frostee, they came with a win again. They found a way to get it done. They're 2-0. What'd you make of the defense? They did give up 30 points, but they came up with a win. What'd you think of the defense?
Honestly, I feel like they're coming together. The team itself hasn't gotten a good rhythm because the expectations were the offense was just going to light it up, and they're going to be able to, zone blitz and come with some pressures the whole game with a big lead, and that hasn't been the case. And this team on the defensive side of the ball has kept them in the games. They're getting turnovers, and I love to see Drake Jackson, the way he finished the game with the sack. He's starting to become really active. And this team, I think if they just keep playing, keep dropping wood, they're only going to get better and better. And, again, this is another reason why it's so important to have these off seasons. This COVID situation here has put a lot of teams at a disadvantage because they just can't gel, especially the teams that got brand new coaches.
Yeah. No, I love Drake Jackson. That kid is so good. He's going to be playing on Sundays once his USC career is over. I'm only a sophomore, but he's a guy that can take a game over when needed. And he's shown that at critical times so far in these 3 weeks. Another kid I wanted to shout out just because I used to work with his mom, Raylan Goforth, linebacker. I thought he had a good game. Young kid. I used to work with his mom. Kind of cool little.
Yeah, he had a great game.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. Great game, man.
So Raylan Goforth, his older brother actually played for UCLA a few years ago. So football runs deep in their family. But he had a good game. So I think the defense, like you said, it's a work in progress. It's a whole new system they're learning. It's a defense that is a physical defense, which they couldn't practice because there was no practices and it was all through Zoom. How do you practice physicality if you're out on the field? So, 2 games in, they're working through things. I do like the hustle they display, the speed they display. They've gotten some unfortunate calls. Chris Steele was on the end of a few bad pass interference calls that was not egregious, but just, getting to the guy a little too quick.
And that's interesting that you say that because with Todd Orlando's team and, these new coaches that came here, the one thing they wanted to do is be more physical, right? So I'm not too upset with the defensive backs getting these PIs right now because that's one of the things when we go back and look at the teams of the past, our defensive backs haven't been too physical. They haven't showed up competing for footballs at the highest point or stepping up in the run game. You're seeing this team flying around. They're very energetic, and that's the stuff that these coaches have to be doing a heck of a job because they didn't get those reps in the spring or fall camp, and that just must be, a lot of talk, a lot of energy on the sideline, and they're showing up. So, again, I'd want a better product just because I'm alumni and this, that, and the other, but this team's 2-0, and let's just stay with 2-0.
Yep, absolutely. And just a work in progress. And they'll get, if we're lucky, fingers crossed, they'll get a Utah team if that game actually does happen. Who Utah, it's a weird game. We'll preview it later in the week, but they're a team that it's going to be their first game, so they're obviously going to be sloppy probably, but it's also a team that's going to be fired up because they haven't been able to play in 2 weeks. So USC's got to have their heads right and ready because it's going to be a competitive Utah team that just wants to prove that they've been slighted by getting these 2 games canceled.
Yeah, because I go back to this past week, and I thought just because Arizona didn't get their first game that this should have been a rout. Arizona hasn't set the pads, but they came to play. And that's one thing for sure. Arizona, they weren't afraid. They had a great running attack. They threw the ball. The defense played very stout. But in the end, USC prevailed, I think, just because they were a little bit better conditioned, and they end up making those late plays in the game.
Yep, they'll get around. And, hey, last thing I'll say is, man, this Pac-12 has some good young quarterbacks in its conference. Grant Gunnell looked good for Arizona. Obviously, we got Slovis. DTR's coming around. We saw Jaden Daniels at Arizona State. We see the kid up in Oregon. We see the freshman at Washington State. There's a lot of good quarterback play in this conference, and it'll be fun to watch going forward. But hey, I'll say it again. Slovis season. Let's keep it going. 2-0.
Yeah, let's stay with it. 2-0. And for you USC fans, Clay Helton is also 2-0.
Yeah, just remember it. 2-0. That's all that matters. So let's look to hopefully Utah next week. So good win for them. All right, let's go to the Chargers, who unfortunately lost another one, Frosty. The battle, everyone's going to talk about the battle of Tua and Justin Herbert. But I thought overall Herbert played fairly well, probably his worst game as a pro, but still, decently efficient, had under 200 yards, but had 2 touchdowns, did have 1 pick, did some things with his legs as well, got in the end zone with his legs. So just another disappointing game for this Chargers team. What do you think overall?
Well, it's safe to say that there was nothing Herbert could do right, wrong, or indifferent. The Dolphins are a better team at this point. Tua's playing great. And the Chargers just have an injury bug that they just can't get past. They just don't have enough players out there to really get these wins. And they're still playing. They're competitive. But just to push them over the top, they need some more players.
Yeah. To your point, I think Tua looked pretty good. He finished with 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. But it really was just the Chargers weren't giving him any looks or anything to throw him off. They got very little pressure on him yet again. Another week, obviously, Joey Bosa out is showing how tough it is for this Chargers defense to operate without Joey Bosa. I talked about last week, Uchenna Nwosu only had 6 snaps. He had a few more this week, but still was in that 40% of snaps. They were rotating Isaiah Rochelle out there on the edge as well. So not really sure why they're not getting him more involved, but just not getting a pass rush, which is when you have a young quarterback, that's what you do to throw him off. And Tua just looked too comfortable back there. There was another throw. I don't know if you remember it, but that should have been an interception, went right through Kenneth Murray's hands, ended up being a 13-yard gain for a first down. So just little things like that where, again, we don't want to sound like we're just, getting paid by this coaching staff supporting him, but it's stuff like that where you just got to execute that, and that flips the game completely, where I think the Dolphins ended up scoring on that drive where that would have been a turnover. Now the Chargers can go down and do something with it. So, just another tough
opportunity. Missed opportunities, man. It just catches up to them, and they can never recover from them. And I'm going to go on the record saying this. I did not give Tua this much credit when he came out. He got drafted. I thought Jalen Hurts was better and whatnot. And I still do think Jalen Hurts is better because I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan. But Tua has really came on the scene here and is playing some really top-notch football. I thought it was going to be a mistake, benching Fitzmagic. But it turns out it was a good move. And have yourself a day, Dolphin.
Yeah, he just looks comfortable, which is good for him. And, looks
Right.
healthy, which obviously we're happy for anyway. But yeah, Chargers fans, this Dolphins team, I think, is just a good team. I mean, they're going to contend with the Bills to win that division. They have LA's number. Obviously, they took a beat down to the Rams 2 weeks ago, and now they beat the Chargers. They've won, I think, 5 straight, dating back to Fitzpatrick's last 2 starts. Now they've won Tua's first 3 starts. So it's just a good football team, well coached by Brian Flores. They have a tremendous defensive unit that probably isn't getting talked about enough around NFL circles, but they're going to start getting talked about more after winning 5 straight. And so Chargers, again, they battled, they competed, they made it a close game at the end there, losing by 1 score yet again. 8 points was the total, but obviously you can get a 2-point to tie it. So tough loss. I mean, if we want to take any bright spots away from this, Kalen Ballage, who was played for the Dolphins, drafted by the Dolphins, brought it from the practice squad, had another good game, 18 carries for 68 yards. So, at least you got some good production from the running back room again. But we just didn't see enough from the receivers, right? Keenan Allen only 3 catches, Mike Williams only 2 catches. So getting those guys more involved, and I don't know what it is to put my finger on it, but it just another tough loss. Just chalk it up as that.
Chop it up as an L and move on, and hopefully they can get some guys back that can help compete, and they can devise a game plan that gets these right receivers into the ball game, because they are elite if they have the ball in their hands.
Yeah, and hopefully Austin Eckler, is inching closer to getting back on the field, because that'll be, Kalen Ballage played well, but he's not Austin Eckler, and that's why they paid Austin Eckler to be their feature back. So when he gets back, not only will that be big for the Chargers, but it'll be big for my fantasy team, because I've been needing it bad.
Listen to you.
I've been hurting in the running back department, so needing to get back for more reasons than fantasy. But hey, I'm just going to throw it out there in the universe. So, all right, Frosty, tough loss for the Chargers. Try to get them next week. Let's move on to our Rams in honor of a win. Let's go ahead and crack this open.
There goes that man drinking that beer again.
Yeah, I guess something like that. So, we had a great show last week with Lofa, Tatupu, Brett Davern, who do the Seahawks podcast. Obviously, Lofa, all pro for the Seahawks. And all 3 of you guys, including you, not only picked the Hawks, but had Seattle scoring 30-plus points. I was the lone one to take the Rams. held them to 16 points. This Rams defense is real, is it not?
Here's the thing about this Rams team. If they were as consistent week in, week out, it would be a lot more easy to brag about them. I'm glad you said it. You know, we are on this show and we did get a victory, and I am a part of your team. And, you know, so I'll take that little victory to share with you. But I did say, hold on, let's see here. I did say if Aaron Donald got to Russell Wilson 2.5 times, it'd be a different ball game. But it wasn't necessarily just him. Everyone stepped up and played. The defense was legit. Hopefully they can continue to be the safe haven for this team and guide this team into the playoffs.
100%. Aaron Donald, and we've talked about this before too, when he doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but others guys do, that's a good thing for the Rams. Because that means Aaron Donald's getting double and triple teamed and other guys are stepping up to the plate. We say all the time, who's going to step up aside from Aaron Donald? We know how good he is. We know how good he can be. But if he's getting triple teamed, he can only do so much. Yes, he's almost a god in a human form, but at some point he can only do so much. And we saw that today or on Sunday happen with Leonard Floyd, who had a huge game, had 5 tackles, had 3 sacks.
Walker's had a great game.
A lot of guys did. They stepped up, and that's what we've been asking for. And Bears fans got to be saying, where's this Leonard Floyd been? Where was he for us? Because I think Leonard Floyd's been great since he's been in the Rams, and they're going to have to re-sign him next offseason.
He likes palm trees, guys.
Yeah, I know. Sick of the cold. He's from Georgia. He played college at Georgia. Now get him back in LA in the warm weather. So, but this defense, man, I saw somewhere too that Jalen Ramsey, who covered DK Metcalf for most of the game, Metcalf on 30 routes run with Ramsey covering him had like 2 catches. So obviously Ramsey did his thing, like I said.
The island out there, he's special. They targeted him, got him there, and he's just making a home out of LA.
Yeah, he's played great. And the other guy I want to talk about on defense, Frostee, is Darius Williams. Got him as a free agent. He was cut by the Baltimore Ravens last year. He came on. McVay loved him last year, even talked about him all the time. And this year found himself in a starting role. And he's played great all year, but yesterday had technically 3 interceptions. One of them called back because of an offsides, but 2 that counted. 1 in the end zone. Had a huge tip drill in the end zone as well. This kid's special, man. I think they got a diamond in the rough that it just proves week in and week out that when guys are in the NFL, there's so much talent across the board. It's about opportunity and what you do with it. He's proven that in the fullest.
That's exactly what it is. It's opportunity. And I think this may be the game that launches them into something special because it was a divisional game and they needed it bad.
Yeah, no. And the offense, it wasn't anything, I think, for how bad the Seahawks defense is. I was hoping to see a little bit more out of the offense in terms of point production. Jared Goff did have no interceptions, but he also had no touchdowns, but he did throw over 300 yards. So, had a decent game there. The rushing game never really got consistent, but it was effective, right? Cam Akers actually led all backs with 10 carries, which was good to see. I was hoping for that, and that happened. But I was hoping to see a little bit more, but I think a lot of that, and maybe you could attest to this, playing division games, guys step up. I know the Seahawks have a bad defense, but they're going to play everything a little tighter, a little closer to the chest. And so the Rams just never really fully was able to take advantage of how bad they played, but they did enough, and that's all that matters.
They took care of business, divisional game, and you need to get that in the win column. So they did that, and it's on to the next.
Yep, and the next one is Tampa Bay, who it's another team. We'll talk about it again later in the week when we preview it. And you have ties with, obviously Bruce Arians being their head coach. So we'll get into it. I know we talked a lot when the Chargers played them, but we'll get into it more later in the season. But they're another team that I don't fully know what they are. Like some weeks they look dominant, like this week, dominating Carolina. That offense was clicking on all cylinders. But then just the week prior, doing nothing right against the Saints.
Well, yeah, so that's where this matchup is. It's going to be a little of a roller coaster of a week trying to really figure out who has the better advantage going into this week just because of what you said last week. They got completely dismantled on national TV. They come back the next week and just play a lights-out game. So it's kind of like the same temperament as the Rams. So this is cause for a great game.
100%. And to what you said right in the beginning of the segment is this Ram team is going to be proven as good or bad if they can be consistent. And we need to see them stack some games and play at a consistent level against good teams and not just beat up on bad teams. So I believe they are a good team. I think they're a top 3 team in the NFC. I think they definitely have what it takes to win this NFC West division, which is all tied up right now. I think they technically have the lead because of tiebreakers, but all 3 teams, them, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals, all with 3 losses. Yeah, I want to see them come out against Tampa Bay and play the way that we know they're capable of. I think that defense can play great against Tom. We'll get into that later, but big win for the Rams and a big win against the Seahawks on Lofa Tatupu's birthday. So had to throw that in there.
Right. So we were 3-1.
3-1 for LA football. Overall good weekend. Let's hopefully the Chargers. I don't want to sound like I'm laughing, but I kind of am. Like we need to just. It's getting kind of sad at this point. We need to see them. They'll turn it around.
They got the tools to get some players back. Hopefully, this is one of the teams that truly needs an offseason. And let's just go to next week and see what they can do.
Yeah, Bosa should be back this next game. Chris Harris Jr. is very close. And Austin Eckler very close, like I mentioned. So that'll be 3 huge keys that I can get the team at least stack some wins up. So, all right, 3-1 weekend. Overall good. Frostee, I think that'll do it for the recap show. We'll keep it short and sweet this one.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah, so where can everyone find you at?
You can find me at The Organic Frost on Instagram and Twitter, and you can email me at frosteepodcast@yahoo.com.
There you go. Send those emails. We also want to have some guests on the show. So if you're interested in coming on with us and talking about whoever your favorite LA team is, we cover 4 of them. We'd love to have you on or at least read your questions. So send those to Frost. You can send those to me at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB, or podcast at LAFBnetwork.com. Make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen. We are everywhere you listen. Video format on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at LAFB Network. Appreciate you all. We'll talk to you all in a couple days as we preview the next slate for LA football and hopefully can get that elusive 4-0. Thanks, Frost. Appreciate you, man.
You got it. Take care, LA.